It is a corporate Game of Thrones in our very own parent company, AT&T's empire. And on this show, Warner is coming. This week, the court approved the AT&T Warner Media merger. At least the appeals court didn't overturn the decision. And in this new kingdom, Randall Stevenson sits atop it all. CEO, chairman of AT&T. John Stankey rules Warner Media. He is my boss, sort of. And no sooner had the appeal decision come out than changes started to happen. Two vacant thrones. David Levy, the president of Turner, announced that he was leaving, and Richard Plepler, the CEO of HBO. Both announced their departures within 48 hours of the AT&T decision. Now, John Stankey is expected to take these two fiefdoms, as they had often been thought, and unite them into one. The new unit will emphasize streaming. So, with thrones to fill, threats lurk beyond the wall. For example, rival streaming armies of Disney are massing even as we speak. Amazon, with a budget that is simply huge. And as for Netflix, an $11 billion war chest to fight with. Armed with HBO as their main weapon, AT&T execs are keen to ramp up production at the crown jewel of the Warner fleet, which is, of course, HBO. CNN media analyst Bill Carter joins me now. So, Plepler and Levy have gone. Was that foreseeable and, more importantly, inevitable?
Well, I don't know if it was entirely foreseeable. Actually, I talked to Richard a few months ago, and I think he was trying to figure out a way to stay there because I think he is a loyal guy to HBO. That's been his main place to work for his whole life, for his whole career. But I do think that the changes that AT&T was calling for were not compatible with his vision of HBO, which is a much more unique place than something that's folded into a gigantic armada that you're portraying here.
Now, if we accept that AT&T did not spend $80 billion to destroy value, then and we also accept to an extent that they must have a vague idea of what they're doing. Does it make sense to take what were, come on, you know as well as I do, two fiefdoms, the HBO silo and the Turner silo, and create them into one under some more unified structure?
I think it makes sense if you think that the entire world is going to be about having a mass amount of product to offer in a streaming, company. HBO didn't ever have that approach. They could have put out more programs for a long, long time. They were extremely selective, and they tried to be a very premium channel. So they're doing away with that notion. And in terms of the upheaval that's going on in the television business, that might make sense. But we all remember New Coke, don't we, Richard? I mean, you could take a very valuable brand, and if you mess with it, you're liable to lose its value. So it's a risk. It's definitely a risk, especially with HBO. It doesn't fit. HBO does not fit with the rest of what Turner Television was in terms of what the public thinks it is and what the entertainment industry thinks it is. So they are kind of folding it into something and reducing its brand. I think the brand of HBO is not going to be the same after this.
Well, the jury's out on that to the extent, but if you get the right person, and the former head of NBC, of course, is being spoken, if you get the right person at the top of this new combined entity, sitting under John Stankey, Warner Brothers, obviously the movie theaters off to the side, movie studio off to the side, surely it's workable.
You're right. There can be the right person who can have a vision for both of them. It's a tall order. I think, they're talking about Robert Greenblatt, someone else I've known for a long, long time, very talented and creative executive. It's a tall order. I mean, HBO to me was separate from the television, but that was their whole brand. We're not TV, we're HBO. And they really created the premium content, drama, and comedy on television with The Sopranos and Sex and the City and all the other shows they did. So, keeping that going and also being this, massive appeal kind of a streaming service is possible. And Netflix does it. Netflix has very high quality dramas, The Crown, etc., and then it has really mass appeal shows. It is doable. It's a challenge. I think it'll be very interesting to see who can do it. I mean, if they can do it and compete, then they're going to be able to survive. But this is going to be a very difficult world with all of these streaming services. How many do people buy is the big question.
Bill, good to see you. One thought, Bill. You say you remember New Coke. I've got news for you.
Yes.
You and I are probably the only people in the studio who actually remember that whole New Coke debacle.
It's not even that long ago, Richard.
No,
but
it's,
yeah.
no, it's not. But some may have read it in school or in business school. Good to see you, Bill. We'll talk more about it
See you, Richard.
in the future.